Don't we all want to sport a hot, lean body, feel great with ourselves, and enjoy bursts of energy throughout the day? The problem is, as entrepreneurs, we tend to get so busy that something has to give. And that something, more often than not, is our health and well-being. There is also the issue of the constant noise and contradictions of what being healthy truly means, with tons of elaborate and often complicated fad diets being thrown at us on a monthly basis, with grueling workout routines that almost no one is able to sustain. As a result, looking after your health becomes a massive chore rather than a pleasurable form of relaxation, making it that much harder for us to even begin, not so much to stick to. So, is there an alternative way? Can looking after yourself become a normal, flexible part of your life, adding more positives rather than being that thing you need to tick off your list? And how does it really impact your overall performance as a business owner? Today, I'll be discussing that and much more with my amazing guests, Laura and Barry Ash, a husband and wife super team who, after leaving their duty in the police force, devoted the last decade to redefining and re-educating busy professionals all about their health and well-being. Laura and Barry have spread their message through multiple stages, magazine articles, radio shows, and TV appearances, including the UK's largest fitness expo, Body Power, or Channel 5's TV show, It's Your Fault I'm Fat, where they train the whole family as part of the program. Laura and Barry are also authors of a children's book, The Adventures of the Good Food Gang, and they have personally educated over 5,000 children about where food comes from and how it affects their body. Their focus revolves about all things mental, physical, and emotional health. And they're here today to share their insights with our audience. So let's dive into today's episode of Habits of Influence, a podcast by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly sides of entrepreneurship and building a movement. Laura, Barry, it's so awesome to have you on the show. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to, have been invited. We're very fortunate. Thank you.
Oh, the honor is all mine. Trust me. Look, I wanted to just dive right in because there is this concept of healthy body, healthy mind, and especially when we are entrepreneurs, it's super important to take that into consideration because we spend a lot of time sitting down. We spend a lot of time at our computers, and more often than not, we actually do forget to look after ourselves, or we deem we are too busy, or we have just other things on our minds. So if you could just tell me why this is important, why is your mission important, and why do you think business owners should pay attention to this?
You go first.
You want me to go first?
Age before beauty.
So, okay, it's quite simple with this one, Magdalena. You know, when you are a business owner like Barry and I are, the business is our main income. We don't have any other kind of income coming from anywhere else, okay? Now, if I'm not working to full pelt and I'm sick, then basically the business will fail. Right? And we quite often think, yes, but I need to focus on the money coming in. I need to do the sales strategy. I've got to get my marketing right. I've got to serve my clients. And it's like, yeah, you need to do all of those things, but what's the one common denominator that's going to make them work? You. So if you're not right, your health is not right, you are not going to show up and be able to serve your clients. You're not going to be able to earn the money. Your sales and marketing that you put out there is not going to be to the best ability. People will be able to see through all of that, and then things start slowly breaking down. And, that's why I feel it's so important for you as a business owner to put yourself first and look after your health and well-being.
I think Warren Buffett said it really well. He looks after his health so he can extend the length of his life, so he gets more time to do all the things that he wants to do. But in this day and age of We push a button, we get Deliveroo come into our door. Everything is so fast paced nowadays. We forget this time that we can sit back and we can just wait for things to come to us if we give it time. Enjoy the process of life rather than trying to force things that happen tomorrow. Let's look at our health and well-being so we can extend our life, live a longer life with more energy, with more passion, with more fulfillment. But it has to start with you. And that you is looking after your health and well-being.
Absolutely.
Like what you said in the intro, which was, I loved it, you know, in terms of fad diets and what you should be doing. You know, we'll have clients come to us and they'll be like, yeah, but I've got an hour to work out. And I'm like, well, then don't work out for an hour. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, can you do 5 minutes for me? Well, yeah, I can find 5 minutes. Great. Because is that better than nothing? Yeah. Well, then let's do that. It's that misconception, as you say.
Yeah. And I mean, if talking about misconceptions, I think health and wellness industry has the most of them. And yeah, it's just been going on for so long that it's really confusing what to pay attention to. And I wanted to kind of touch upon something you said, because it's very important. You're talking about the overall well-being. So we're not just talking here about the physical health, we're talking about the mental health aspect. And I used to work back in the day, I used to be a productivity coach. So I used to work with people's mental health quite a lot. And burnout was one big thing that was coming up every single time that I spoke to people. And the funny thing is, people have this, again, misconception of thinking that if I work more, then I've got this momentum, right? It's going to be great because everything is rolling. I don't need to make myself do things. I'm motivated. That's absolutely fine. But there comes a time in everybody's journey where you just can't do anymore. And it's regardless of what you think, how motivated you are, you just wake up one day and you're just physically unable to go on. Why do you think that a lot of business owners, because that's my experience, whenever I asked, why don't you mindfully rest, why don't you take mindful breaks, why don't you give yourself the chance to recoup so that you have more energy, why is it going over people's heads? Why do you think? Why is nobody paying attention to this?
I think the biggest thing is fear. People have fear of missing missing the ball, missing that one opportunity that might make them the millions and millions of pounds, missing that opportunity. And we believe that by doing more, we get more. But I think that's the misconception. By doing more, it's about the quality of our work that we do, not the quantity of our work that we do. That brings in that fulfillment. Because why are we doing the job? Why did we get into the job that we're doing, being entrepreneurs? Because we love to help, we love to serve. And we can't serve if we haven't served ourselves first. I would hate to give my clients 90% of my energy. I want to give them 100% of my energy. So without looking after myself, I can't do that.
Absolutely. And whatever we project is actually going to result in our clients' results as much as it does at ours, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I also think there's something else to this. I mean, as you know, we do a lot with burnout with a lot of people. And I think there's something that is lying underneath that fear which drives it. And it is this kind of, as Barry said, fear, but also the fear of, failure. And it's almost the ego that drives somebody in terms of, I am what I have and I am what I do. I can't let this business fail because I will look terrible. I can't not show up and be this way because then that would be a failure to me. And so we keep on pushing and forcing and goading and, really putting everything, on that. We don't do anything that we enjoy. We become the business, we become the job. And that's when our sense of self starts to crumble because we then don't have any other outlets. We simply become this one entity that's driven by ego and fear, rather than coming from a place of creation and actually understanding who you are, what it is you want, the intention that it's coming from, and all of these kind of things.
And I love what you said, is that pressure, doesn't it, of showing up? And do you think it has something to do with what is being presented in the online world? Because you are online as well as much as you are offline. And we see it more and more that you just need to show up, regardless of what happens. You need to keep on showing up. You need to be everywhere all the time, which is actually not the case. You should be showing up intentionally, powerfully, and the work that you do is specifically helping with that aspect, not needing, understanding that you don't need to be everywhere all the time and achieve better results, essentially, right? Being more productive. The performance improves as soon as you look after yourself.
And I think one of the things we look at online is these numbers that people get. Oh, this person's got 65,000 followers. They've got 1 million subscribers. They've got all of these numbers. But why are we in business? We're in business to serve, obviously, but also a business is about earning money as well. Revenue for yourself, revenue for the business, so we can live the life that we want to live. And how many people with all of these subscribers, all of these numbers that are following them, how much money are they really earning? How much of an impact are they actually having within their business?
Well, I can actually tell you, because my line of work is building authority and influence online. And as I always say, I love that saying, actually, likes don't pay your bills. And it's true. And the fact of the matter is, majority of those people with massive followings have very little income. It never, hardly ever correlates to the conversions, to the sales, to the clients. And people with smaller audiences are often those that are earning the most, and which is surprising. And a lot of people still don't understand that predicament, that it's better to, just like you said with health, right? It's about that quality, not the quantity. It's the same in marketing, it's the same in the business world. You need to focus on the people that are actually interested in what it is that you have to say, offer, and put all of your efforts over there, as opposed to just trying to be this super famous person, viral, whatever it is that people value nowadays.
And I think it comes from that place of, are you being that person, or are you just doing the thing? Well, you know, I've got to post 5 times a week on social media. That's what I'm meant to be doing. Right. And it's like, yeah, but who are you being with that? Like, do you actually feel inspired to post? Yeah. If I don't feel inspired to post, I won't. Sometimes I will post 7 days a week for 2 or 3 months. But then sometimes I just don't feel inspired to do that. So I'm just going to go to a place where I can connect with myself creatively, think about who I'm being, what is it I want to create, what I'm inspired to talk about, and then I will do that. And you'll find so often that they're the posts that get the most when you're coming from that inspired place, rather from that, oh, I've got to do this because someone told me. You've got to throw out the rule book, I think. That's just personally me anyway.
I love that. No, it highly resonates with me, because how are you supposed to impact other people if you don't feel inspired yourself? And people do feel that. It's not that it's just a post on social media, right? It actually shows. It shows in the way you're writing. It shows in the way you're speaking about the thing that you do. It really makes a difference if you even post less, but you actually make it more quality. Speaking of movements, things that are famous or viral, there is a movement. Well, there's many movements that kind of start in a very good way, but then they can turn very radical and essentially be very dangerous. And one of those movements is the body positivity. And I really wanted to know your thoughts about, I mean, you guys work with people in the UK, but also you work with people in the United States, which in the States, it's very, very prevalent right now. We've got all those influencers telling people to just stay fat because fat is beautiful, fat is healthy. And in fact, a lot of the times those are very, very obese people, very unhealthy people. And there's been a lot of instances where sadly those people passed away because they were just so enwrapped in that thought process and that movement that is being created. What is your take on that? How do you try and battle this when you work with people? Do you try and educate people on it? What do you think about it?
My understanding of this is, the way I work with it is, we always look at health to start with. Health is our main focus. And we all, as human beings, we all come in different shapes and sizes. Some are rounded people, some are really long and skinny, some people are really muscle. And I think the first thing we need to do is appreciate our body, the human body, for what it does for us. It does so many things. It heals us, it pumps blood, it nourishes our body, so many things for us before we even look at the shape of our body. We're so focused and we have to look a certain way, but let's look at how we feel. What does our body do? And when it comes to looking after your health and well-being, we have our 6 pillars of health. Sleep is the first thing we look at with our clients. 100% get your sleep on point. Then we look at your hydration levels. Then we look at your nutrition. We don't look at diet plans or fad diets. We look at what's the best way of nourishing our body. then we look at movement, then we look at thought management, and then we look at de-stress me time. How do we de-stress? And if we can get these 6 pillars incorporated into our daily lives, you're going to be the healthiest person you can. And your shape will be determined by your genes at the end of the day. You can manipulate it to a certain point, but I believe it so strongly that a large person can't be skinny, but they can be healthy. A skinny person may not be able to get really big, but they can be healthy. That's what we need to be focusing on, health over everything else rather than our body sizes.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, you can get, you know, really people that are very slight and their internals are completely clogged up with fat, visceral fat, and that kind of thing. And they're just as unhealthy as someone that is maybe obese. You know, we all know that somebody who is obese is not healthy. We all know that because it pulls on their joints, it puts pressure on their internal organs. You know that that is an unhealthy body, it's an unhealthy environment. And I think that is a conversation that needs to be had. But I think that I agree with Barry in terms of we need to be able to put in healthy habits in. Yes, you might be obese and you might look at someone and go, oh, look at them, they're obese, they're fat, but you don't know their story. They might have been on a journey for 2 years trying to lose weight. And I think sometimes we're very quick to judge somebody because we see they're overweight and we think they must be lazy, they must be idle, and they don't care. But we have to, I think, be careful about how we're judging people when we look at them, because they might be up at 5:30 every morning doing meditation and grounding. They might be getting up even earlier than you to go out for a walk because they're too embarrassed because they get called names on the street, right? Yeah. And so I think there's so much dynamic to it, but as long as somebody is incorporating healthy habits and they're working every day to be the healthiest person they can be, then I think that is a great thing.
And I totally agree with what you said about not judging people, because we do come in different shapes and sizes. What I was wondering about more, like I said, the radical kind of take on this, where we throw those buzzwords all the time, right? And then one of the buzzwords is fat phobic recently, where morbidly obese people come online and they preach to others that they should not work out and they shouldn't look after their health and they shouldn't mind what they're eating, because if they do, they are fat phobic. What would you say to that?
When you can you explain fat phobic a little bit?
Oh, phobia, as I'm understanding it, because I think that everybody understands it differently. I'm trying to kind of crack, what do those people mean? Does it mean that I'm afraid of a person that's fat? No, I'm not. And I think it's just, like I said, it's just a buzzword that has been created for the purposes of a certain narrative. But I'm thinking that if you are trying to get healthy, basically the meaning of all of that is behind it is, if you're trying to get healthy, you're against me. So
yeah, I love, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think people who say these types of things, if you hate me, you're fat phobic, it's because they're not willing to put the work in to be healthy. It gives them an excuse to stay where they are in that comfort zone. Because when you are putting new regimes into your life, it's difficult. Yeah. If you are trying to become a healthier person you possibly can, it's difficult to get the sleep. It's difficult to get the water in. It's difficult to change your diet because it goes against your habits, your normal routines. And people who are saying, you don't like me because you're fat phobic, it's their excuse saying, I'm too lazy, or I can't be bothered to actually change my habits. So I'm putting my insecurities on you. And I think that's what's happening is nobody can say fat is healthy. If you are morbidly obese, then your body is having so much stress put onto it. It's not as resilient. It's putting so much stress. And if you get ill, there's strain going across every aspect, from joints to heart to lungs to all the tissues are going to be struggling. That is not healthy.
Yeah. I think you've even got to, question we spoke about the mindset of somebody, because, as you know, we're all running off beliefs and patterns and everything. And it's like, what has made this person feel so much that way that they will resist looking after themselves and accuse everybody else of being fat phobic? It's like, what's happened to you in your childhood? Who
Exactly. And
people.
also trumping other people's journey, bear in mind, because there's people who listen to this and it's kind of like an excuse, right? Okay, so if she says that she's a massive influencer, like you said, with the massive following, I should listen to her because she feels beautiful and she's preaching this to me that I don't need to do anything, I don't need to put any effort, any work, and I'm going to be beautiful as well. But it also kind of like stumps the journey of people that are trying their best. Like you said, they are getting up in the morning, they are doing the exercises, they are trying to watch what they eat, and then they hear that kind of message, and I think it must be really, really discouraging.
Yeah, definitely.
And when people praise people for joining them on that journey, shall we say, it just confirms to them that I'm doing it right. I'm doing it. They're copying me, they're listening to me. And when I praise them, it's another person in my tribe that's going to support me to be this way.
Well, you just look at Aaron Beck, who is the founder of CBT. He said the number one fear of humans is that of social exclusion. Right. So if I talk big and I create even just this small place where I belong, doesn't matter what it is, even if it's paradoxical, I belong. Do you know what I mean?
I think you summed it up there, because obese people, I'm just going to put it out there, obese people who are morbidly obese, I bet you they feel isolated. They feel excluded from society, because I bet you they don't move from their house. They don't get out and about to see people, have that human interaction.
They feel,
And by bringing people into their lives via what they're doing, that gets rid of that social exclusion.
It's that rebel inside, you know, why should I have to do it? You can almost hear the teenager, you know, like when we tell people you need to go to bed like before 10 o'clock, we always get it, Magdalene, the teenager comes out, why should I have to go to bed? You know, why should I have to lose weight? Just because you said so. It's like, no, it's because your life will be shortened. Is this what you want for your life? You know,
we get one life.
Hopefully that's answered your question.
It does, absolutely. And I think we, as you know, when we're growing up, life is confusing as it is, and we don't have this awareness of consequences that might come. And I think we're all the same. As we were young, it's hard to remember, but it did happen back in the day when we were told certain things that are meant to be good. We were just completely against it and saying, I know better. I don't have to do this. It won't happen to me, because I'm different, right? As a lot of the excuses that we use are based around this, right? It doesn't concern me. I'm not part of this, so therefore it's going to be different.
I mean, it's not common sense that, you know, if you are in that morbidly obese bracket, you are going to be unhealthy. There are high risks. You could even have a cancer growth in you and you don't even know about it, right? And it is kind of, it just falls down that line, really.
Right. And you've mentioned, like we've mentioned, young people. There is another thing that is kind of circulating right now, which really bothers me, and I really like to, you know, if I have experts on the show, I really like to discuss it. And as a matter of fact, I know this is something that you both have been struggling with personally. There is this thing that revolves around glorification of mental health right now, especially among young people, and especially young girls. This is surprising. What I'm trying to figure out is, because like you said, it's like that kind of the tribe mentality. If they accept me, that I'm special, that I'm unique, and I'm loved and I'm cared for, and it's confusing to grow up. But I'm wondering, what do you think around that kind of whole movement of glorification of mental health right now? Because you yourself have struggled with mental health issues, and there are disorders that people try and replicate and modulate online right now, even though they are not unwell themselves. I'm wondering, what do you think about that? And also, if you could educate people, because living with a mental health problem or a disorder is super hard, especially if you're a business owner, especially if you're trying to go out there online. And I'm talking about people that are, you know, trying to do careers online, digital creators, which are glorifying that sort of stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that, what your journey was, and kind of educating people on, you know, that it's actually really difficult, that it's not something that should be glorified and should be replicated?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a diagnosis of bipolar and OCD. Bipolar and comorbid OCD. You'll notice that I say I have a diagnosis, I don't say I am bipolar, I am OCD. And I think there's a few kind of things to your question and to think about. To be diagnosed with a severe mental health condition is a huge, huge thing. I remember when the doctor diagnosed me in 2009, the psychiatrist, they said to me, what we are going to say in this meeting is literally going to change your life forever. And I was like, okay. And it was those words, she said, you have bipolar. And so I took it upon myself. And everything that I did, it was like, oh, it's because of my bipolar. I'm having a bad day because of my bipolar. Oh, yeah, I spent all that money because I have bipolar. I was rude to that person because I have bipolar. And it used to be the first thing that I would introduce myself. So I would be like, oh, hi, Magdalena, it's nice to meet you. Oh, I'm bipolar, by the way. And the problem is we become that thing and we become a victim.
Yeah.
And this is the big thing. Young people have enough problems taking responsibility for their lives, right? We see it all the time, and it's a natural thing that happens, right? And to be given an official diagnosis of a condition, for me, means that you need to step up to it. And this is how I've dealt with mine. I'm responsible because I know with the condition that has been given to me, right, by somebody, and what I experience, that if I don't manage myself well, it goes sideways. And I'm not going to say the S word, but it goes sideways. It will affect not just me, it will affect Barry, it could affect our business, it will affect my parents. We could lose everything. If I went into a mania and I spent all the money, right, or I said something that would ruin our career, that's huge. So there has to be a responsibility. I love
that.
And it's not something a lot of people will like to hear. People will not like to hear this because they want to be a victim to it.
I wanted to say, we live in this victim mentality society, right?
Yeah.
As soon as we allow the condition to own us, we become a victim to it. And when we become a victim, we have no power to control this condition. As soon as we take responsibility, when Laura got diagnosed with the bipolar and the OCD, she made it her mission to learn as much about the condition and own the condition so she can control it. Rather than, I think a lot of people say I've got this when they haven't got it because they go, oh, I'll just blame that when I'm just feeling I can't be bothered to do anything. But that's when you have a condition and you take ownership of that condition, you are responsible for that condition. And I think we need to get people to understand when you are diagnosed with a certain condition, take responsibility. If you give yourself a condition, take responsibility of it. Don't become a victim.
But I've heard young people say, oh, I wish I was bipolar.
That's exactly. I've recently found videos where there was young girls trying to modulate Tourette's syndrome, which is a terrible disease. And the comments underneath those videos were like, "Oh, you're so wonderful. I wish I had that. I wish I was like you." My God.
And you know what? Oh, I just want to hug that person and say, you are enough. What has made her feel that she's not enough?
Yeah.
That she has to give herself a condition to stand out and be loved.
Yeah.
What is going on that she feels that she's got to do that? And that's exactly what's going on. It's like, what is going on that you don't feel accepted enough that you have to put this label on yourself? It goes back to the fat phobia. What's happened that you don't feel enough of yourself, that you've had to do, this stuff? A lot of people say, my anxiety, my depression. Anxiety is normal, depression is normal. They are both emotions. We don't have anxiety. You are not anxiety. You are not depression. You are not, I am depressed. It's simply an emotion that you experience, just like happiness, joyfulness, guilt, jealousy. But the problem is there's such a connotation out there about anxiety and using it and that kind of stuff. And it's like anxiety is an emotion that you experience and it's there to get your attention to something. I know for myself, I've worked through this since I was 5, I've experienced OCD, right? I'm 43 now. And I've really understood the factors to why the anxiety pitches up, why I experience anxiety. And then I talk to that emotion. I go, I hear you, it's okay. But the problem is people will go to the doctors. The doctor will see them for 10 minutes. They're not a psychiatrist. They'll go, you've got GAD, general anxiety. Here's some tablets. What is that going to do?
It's a big label stamped to your head, so
it's
you've
a
got
big label
anxiety.
from an authority figure that we've been programmed to listen to from a young age, right? And so then we then start to become GAD. And I noticed it when they said depression to me when I was first signed off from the police. I became depression. I became the bipolar, and I lost myself. And so I think education around what it is to be a human being who experiences emotions is so key, rather than just going, have some medication, here's this label, stamp and off you go kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I love what you said, because it actually beautifully leads me to my opinion about that is, like you said yourself before, that we want to belong, we want to be part of the group, but we also want to be unique, we want to stand out. And more so than ever, we've got so much noise offline, online. Everybody's kind of having this opportunity to show themselves, to get a massive following, to suddenly be looked at by massive amounts of people. And I think more often than not, we just get really scared and confused because we don't want to kind of be lost in the crowd of people, especially if we're talking, because this is going to be relevant to adults as much as it is to young people, right? We as entrepreneurs, we have this inherent need of trying to stand out, trying to show ourselves better, to stand out of the crowd, to show our expertise, our products, to get people into essentially to our message and our services. So a lot of the times we are actually scared because we don't know how. And that's why we kind of revolve towards those maybe not the best methods or avenues in order to show ourselves as unique. This is just my opinion. This is by no means an expert opinion. But I wanted to know, what would you say to the people that are actually struggling with things like that? Because I think what you said is very important in terms of leadership. Responsibility and leadership, they are essentially the same thing, isn't it? If you want to stand out, if you want to spread your message and you want to have that powerful voice, you need to also be responsible, because so much lies on what you say and how you say it. You said yourself, I can't allow myself to say certain things because that would impact my business, that would impact my family, that would impact my marriage and all of that. It's the same if we are forward facing large groups of people. We have this responsibility of what we say and how we say it. So what would you say to the people that are confused in order to help them? How can they work on their mindset to reassure themselves that they are enough, that they are unique, regardless of whether they do have a condition, they don't have a condition, they don't need to copy and modulate others in order to stand out? What can they do instead?
I think the first thing we need to do is be grateful for the human body, rather than picking holes in all the things that we don't like about this flesh shack that we're carrying around and the thoughts that we're having. Have a bit of gratitude for what your body does. Like I said at the beginning here, heart beats, lungs breathe, your food digested, your stomach, it nourishes our body. Have a bit of gratitude for that. Then start liking your body. Then start loving your body. We go straight into, I got to love this body. I hate this body. And if you're hating this body, you're not going to look after something that you hate. So we've got to start way back and just being a little bit grateful for it. And that's where I would start with some changing this narrative that we have in our head. These thoughts, everything we do starts from a thought. And we've got to start looking at changing how we see ourselves and think about ourselves and where we sit in society. Birds of like feather flock together. So just be yourself, and you're going to start attracting people who are like you around you, rather than trying to be going like a peacock going in with the buzzards. You're not going to fit in, and no matter how much you try and be like a buzzard, you're never going to fit in. So be yourself, and then other birds will come around you and they start being around you. So that's what I would say to people.
I think it's really about someone just sitting down and asking themselves, why am I doing all this? And the most difficult thing about this is going to be having a very awkward conversation and difficult conversation with yourself, because it might be that you write down, I don't feel loved. I don't feel I fit in. I don't feel supported. So I create this person, I create this thing. And it's asking yourself, are you happy with that? Like truly, deeply, are you happy with that? You know, we all want to fit in. We all want to be loved. And it's like, as Barry said, if you can start to love yourself, but that doesn't automatically need to happen straight away. It could be respecting yourself. You know, if you're a goth and you're only doing it to fit in, maybe you just take off a hand of, I don't know, nail varnish. Do you know what I mean? Just to go, actually, no, this is what I truly, you know, truly want. But I think it does come down to having those awkward conversations with yourself. I personally find, Magdalena, that journaling is brilliant. It's always helped me. And you can have some real deep conversations, you know, with yourself. But I think for me, that would be where to start, and just having that real open conversation with yourself on paper.
Absolutely love that, because what you said is essentially that the uniqueness and the standing out comes from within, not from the outside, not from those things that you wear or how you behave or what labels you put on yourself. You remember back in the days, I'm 38 myself, you know, we used to run away from labels back in the day when we were growing up, and now everybody just wants to be closed up in this little pocket or bag, or, you know, everybody suddenly needs labels for everything. Why? It's just so insane to look at.
Fear. And I think it's the media that have pushed people aside, because, you know, people feel that they don't fit in. And I think if you look back and you start to look back at it, since social media has come on and the ferocity of media, I feel that has been part of the reason why a lot of people are now fracturing and dividing, because it's the first rule of the art of war, right? Divide and conquer. So if everyone is divided, then they're all arguing, then it's easier for media to control.
It's easier to manipulate them. Yeah. Whew. You guys are a power couple.
A bit deep loss, wasn't it?
My opinion. There you go.
Very good. This podcast is all about opinionated people. That's why we put a strong emphasis and we kind of vet people that we want on the show, because I want to make sure that we don't just perpetuate the stereotypes that everybody else is giving. We want the people to be able to have the discernment more than teach them. We want to show them how to think for themselves and to make their own opinions, make their own judgments. So this is great. I'm loving this so far. But why I said you're a power couple, I know for a fact, a lot of the times when people work together, they are in a relationship, or if they are married, it might incur some challenges. I'm speaking from my personal experience, as well as the experience of people that I know that work with those spouses. Tell me, are you always agreeing on everything, every single thing? Or do you sometimes, you know, get enough of each other and to say, okay, the way we need to separate the personal and the work life? Because I know a lot of couples do struggle with this. If they work together, they do struggle with separating that personal life and that business life. What would you say about that?
Well, we've worked together for 10 years now and we're still alive. So that's a good thing. We did struggle in the beginning in terms of, I was trying to do everything and Barry was trying to do everything. So he was trying to do the marketing and the media and the sales calls, and I was trying to go in with the clients and be face to face and this kind of stuff. And we were getting snappy with each other and stepping over each other's feet. But the one thing that we did was we defined our roles. And, you know, I'm not demasculizing Baz, but I am more of the lead in Rock Solid in terms of, you know,
100%.
what happens, because I do more of the marketing, the media, the connections and all that side of things. Whereas Baz does more of, like, you know, the PT and the physical stuff and that kind of thing. So we've clearly defined our roles, just like you would when you step into a job. This is your role, these are your responsibilities, this is what you do. We both know where we're coming from.
Also, we're not afraid to, if Laura's having, should we say, a low day where she can't, I don't mind stepping into Laura's role, coming back into my role. Yeah. And Laura will do the same for me as well. If I'm having a low day, she'll step into my role and step back into her role. But my role is my role and Loz's is hers. And they do overlap a little bit, but we know where we sit in this. And I think the biggest thing that we have is communication. We never, ever go to bed on an argument. That's our biggest thing. If we do have, we don't have arguments anyway. Loz is
Well,
right.
I'm always right anyway.
Yeah, we never go to bed on an argument, and we communicate, we discuss things. When we are husband and wife, we talk in one way. When we are business partners, we talk in another way.
And that's important. How do you separate one and the other? What are your tips in terms of how to switch off from the work mode into the personal mode, the wife and husband, as opposed to business partners?
Yeah.
For me, it's different rooms in the house.
Okay.
This
This is our office we're in now. We will have office discussions, business discussions here. If we don't want to be in here, we will go out to another location and have a business meeting. When we are in our kitchen, in our living room, in the dining room, we are husband and wife. When we're in the garden, we are husband and wife. If we want to talk business, we come in here or we go out.
Okay, so it's kind of like a no-go type of topic when you are in the normal personal mode. It's not like that you allow yourself to have those conversations, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's having them boundaries.
and it's also timings as well. So I don't particularly want to be having business conversations after 8 o'clock at night. I want to sit down and watch, I don't know, a Conor McGregor thing or a Harry Potter or something like that. We want to do Bake Off or something like that, right? And the same at the weekends. We're off. We're not doing work stuff. We're doing Baz and Loz stuff. But one other really important point I want to just press upon is you got to take your ego out of it and stop pouting, right? And treat it like a professional relationship. So, for example, it can be really easy for husband and wives to hold grudges against each other because we might take each other for granted. We might not understand that we've got our own things, you know, going on. We're two completely different species at the end of the day. So if Barry and I need to have a conversation, we go, right, we need to have a conversation. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it. And then as soon as we leave that room, it's forgotten. There's a line drawn underneath it. It doesn't rumble on, because so many, I'll see it, they'll throw it back at each other. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You clearly need to take yourself out of this, take your ego out of it, take your bruising emotion and whatever out of it and go, right, what's right for the business? Okay. And then you have that conversation, you draw the line, you walk away. It comes back to that responsible word. Do you know what I mean? Rather than going into the teenager that stamps their foot because they didn't get their own way kind of thing. It does take, I feel it takes another level really of understanding of yourself.
It does. It does. And it's so important because it otherwise, if you don't do that, it kind of creates that resentment, right? Which will eventually impact the business life, because you can't. And I love what you said, being a teenager, because it's childish, isn't it? Just kind of like bringing in your face things that are completely irrelevant from your personal life into your business life, where business should be professional, responsible, and all of those things that we've already mentioned.
It's like, oh, sorry.
It's amazing how many things we throw in each other's faces. We don't do it, but throwing people's faces just to win the argument.
Yeah.
The winning the argument becomes more than what the argument was about.
Yeah. I love the saying, like, I'd rather be happy than right.
Well, they say I'm this way because of my mother, and it's like, well, let's bring your mum into the room then, and she can help us solve the business situation. Yeah, you know, it's just. True. But yeah, we do have times, you know, like Baz and I do, like we work out together, we go horse riding together, and
we do our charity work together.
And do you have any separate like interests that are only for you, Laura, and only for you, Barry? Like something that you do completely, like do you give yourself time to explore things on your own?
I've got a Harley Davidson, and the weekends I meet up with a couple of guys and we just go out just for a couple of hours and we do guy stuff. You know, and that's what I do, and it clears my head, and I come back. And also, I think if you don't have your own things to do, don't have a conversation. I go out and I do my thing, and I come back and I tell Loz about it, and we have a chat about it, and she's learning new things about me, and I'm explaining things. And like Loz, she'll go and do her CrossFit, and then she go, "Oh my God, Baz, I done a handstand walk for 5 meters today," and I'm like, "That's superb." And you've got to have your own hobbies as well.
Yeah, be your own separate entity. Absolutely, I agree, and that's great. You should give advices to couples now. I think this is going to be super valuable. I have a lot of clients that work together, and I think the biggest challenge that they're facing is that inability of kind of separating one and the other. So it's going
That
to
is
be
something that I would like to work on, that Barry's told me to shelf.
A branch of the business may be coming that way.
Yes, maybe next year. Barry's like, look, we're trying to do all this first. Let's shelf this bit and then we can work on that.
True. One at a time. We will kind of get into your current projects, because I know that you're doing quite a lot about around burnout, and you're even writing a book. You're in the middle of writing a book. So I definitely want to know more about that. But coming back, to what we said, because we have kind of named lots of misconceptions on this podcast. I like to know, everybody has an opinion, right? And you're in it. I'm not in your line of work, your industry. So it's very hard for me to know. But what are the biggest misconceptions and things that really aggravate you right now in your industry?
For me, fad diets, losing weight quickly. Losing weight will make you happy. Becoming fit will make you happy. Changing the way your body is will make you happy. It's a misconception. Happiness starts first. I done a bodybuilding competition because I saw Men's Health magazines and I wanted to be like that, because I wanted to feel like that this certain way. And the moment I got on the stage, the lights come on me, I struck my first pose. The first thought, I'm still Baz. I've still got the same narrative going through my head. Doesn't matter what I've changed on the outside, the inside is still the same. And we need to change the way we think about ourselves before we can change how we feel about ourselves.
So what would you think would be that underlying feeling or reasoning people should be finding within themselves in order to start their journeys, whether it is physical improvement or mental improvement, emotional improvement? What would you say that one thing is?
For me, it's more than one thing. I think we just need to respect ourselves and be happy with who we are and find out what fulfills us in life. Because you can have all the money in the world, you can have all the toys and all the things that you want, but you don't get true fulfillment. You got to find that thing that fulfills you and makes you happy, that makes you get out of bed every day and thinks today's going to be a good day. What is that one thing that gets you out of bed?
I mean, everybody has their own thing, and surely, but I know for a fact, because I've struggled with depression some time ago. That's the reason why I even got into first productivity coaching. And then when I kind of regained my self-composure, I went into what I really wanted, which is marketing and sales. But it's really hard to get yourself out of that mind frame of, even if you're trying to say today is going to be a good day and your own brain fights you, is like, no, it's bullshit. It's not going to be a good day. Who are you lying to? We have those habits and things that we've been growing up with, that have been with us for a very long time, which are in fact very hard to break away from. So in that case, what would you say people could do in order to kind of make that switch gently? Because it is a process. It's not going to happen overnight, obviously. You're not just going to do it with one thing or the other. Like you said, there's lots of things. But how can people start getting themselves or easing themselves into that process?
I mean, the mere fact that you say it's hard, it's really hard. It's really hard to break a habit. It's really hard. It's gonna be. And it's like, we have to listen to our language, because what we speak into creation, and it happens. Right? You go to a restaurant and you really want steak, but you verbalize that you want chicken. And when it comes, you're disappointed because you didn't get your steak. It's because you said chicken.
Yeah.
And so I think also it's about looking at what's your expectation. Do you think that you're going to give up a habit and the next morning you're going to wake up and you're going to be Tony Robbins? Right? It's like, okay, we need to start reassessing our expectations and changing our narrative, our inner language about why do you think it's hard? What's another way that you could say, and switch it around? So a lot of people say, I'm really stressed. This is so stressful. How about instead of saying stressed and stressful, this is a challenge for me. How does that sound to you? And for me, it's about challenging your language, because if you say it's going to be hard, it's going to be hard, right? I had this same conversation with somebody very close to me who was going through cancer treatment. And they were like, it's really difficult, this and that. And they were putting a very negative spin. And I said to him, if you put a negative spin on it and you say it's difficult and it's hard, it will be. But if you say to yourself, when I go for this treatment, this light is healing light, penetrating my body and replenishing every morsel in my body to make me fitter and stronger and healthier. And every time I go, I get energized and excited by it. You're going to have a different experience. You know, and it's like, how do you change that language? So, okay, a habit that you want to change. What would be one habit that one of your clients, Magdalena, come up with a lot of the time that say it's hard to change?
Procrastination, I think, was the most common one.
Okay, cool. So it's like procrastination. Okay, so we think procrastination, you might not agree with me, but I think it's because, you know, it's perfection and we're thinking that we should do something. But what if you was to sit down and say, right, I'm procrastinating because I've got to set up my social media, right? So instead of saying this is really hard, I'm thinking loads about it, just saying the question, how can I make this really fun?
Love
How
that.
can I make this really fun? How can I share my passion that I really love and throw away the rule book? It just makes it different. You come at it from a different place. I know, instead of sitting in the office to do it, I'm going to go in the garden and do it. I'm going to go and sit up on the cliffs and do it. I'm going to go and sit in a coffee shop and do it. And it's about how you ask that different question. When you say, this is really hard, I'm procrastinating, I can't do this, your mind will give you all those answers. You know, say we go back to kind of being fat again. Why am I so fat? Your brain will go because you eat, because of your genetics, because you're lazy, because you're this, because you're that. Whereas if you change the question and you say, how can I make writing my social media this week really fun? How can I connect in a different way that I've not done before and just throw away the rule book? How would it feel to really step into a space of like real connective, inspired language and go from that place and just playing with it? Do you know what I mean? And seeing how it feels.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And also I would add, you know, cutting yourself some slack, because I'm pretty sure that even Tony Robbins has bad days. And he's using the same tools as we would have, you know, in those bad days, just to make himself feel better, more pumped. In fact, you know, I don't think he's actually hiding it, that before going on the show, sometimes he had to do this or that. So I think we need to just talk about it more, that we're all human and we're all struggling with the same things. And regardless of which level of business we're at, or personally, which level of life we're at, we do have those worst days, and we all have to get ourselves out.
But why do we have to label it? Like, why do we have to say we're struggling? Why can't it just be part of the process?
Yeah, exactly. Because we're forever growing, and it's always going to be evolving and changing. And absolutely, that's why I said, cut yourself some slack.
Understanding that we have to have low days, because everything has opposites. Up, if there wasn't an up, there would never be a down. If there wasn't hot, there wouldn't be a cold.
I love that you said that. I just, like, recently, yesterday, we released an episode and my guest said the exact same thing. How would you know that something is good if you didn't experience the bad? I love that.
Yeah. Everything has two sides. I always say it doesn't matter how thinly you cut that slice of bread, it always has two sides to it. So sometimes we just need to get up and see it from a different point of view.
Whenever I've experienced a depression or a low mood, there's part of me that's always excited in there. So I'm like, oh, thank you, because now I know what it is like to feel energized. Now I know what it's like to feel love. You know, a death gives life meaning at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, it's such an important lesson to learn. And also, you know, when you're having those low times, it's like, oh, what am I going to learn from this? Because we know sometimes to have a breakthrough, we need to have a breakdown. So it's getting excited about it.
Absolutely. I love this. Guys, all right, let's talk about the book that you're writing. Can you tell people a little bit about what your mission is? What are your plans of what you plan on doing with it? And what essentially do you want to help people with and change?
Guys, do you want to go, or do you want me to go?
You're the main author.
Do you see how the roles? Yeah. So, you know, for us, it's very much about working with people like yourselves and, you know, your clients that you work with, who literally sacrifice everything for the success of their business, right? Health, relationships, finances, everything. And our mission is to be able to help people create a life that they want to live, do more things that they enjoy, so they can enjoy that work life, you know, flow like we do, right? And the book that we've written is called The Energy Reset. Okay. And it's based on a 5-day program that we used to run. And it basically helps you to identify the 3 areas of burnout that you might be facing and experiencing: mental, physical, or emotional. Okay. It helps you to clearly identify which one of those you're in, create some awareness of why you're there, and create an action plan as to how you can actively manage your energy to be able to, you know, eradicate it, basically.
It's a very practical book.
Very.
It's not just a book, what we call shelf help. You read it, put it on the book, and don't do anything with it. This is a book where you actually read it and you work through the book to actually find out whether you're suffering from burnout, or if you are suffering from burnout, which area is it, and how can we help you pull out these key areas and work with you to move forward and come out of burnout.
Because a lot of people won't know there are physical, mental, emotional. And the study that was done by Christina Maslach, you know, University of Berkeley, you know, kind of came up with this concept, which was, you know, exhaustion, cynicism, and powerlessness, which we've kind of fed mental, physical, and emotional. And there are different signs and symptoms that you will have for each one. We've got like a burnout self-assessment where people can, you know, answer some questions based on how they felt for the past 2 to 4 weeks, and then it will give them kind of like a reading, you know, based on that, basically. But yeah, the book is, you can do it in 5 days because it follows a day every day. We can do it in 5 weeks. It's entirely up to you. It's your pace, your thing that you want to do. But by the end of it, you will know, you know, symptoms and triggers of what's going on. You'll be able to really ask some really in-depth questions to create some awareness, and then have an action plan that's right for you, kind of, you know, at the end, to manage your energy.
Fantastic. And when can people expect a book? What stage are we at?
So it's all written, okay, and it's with the typesetter and formatting at the moment. So we're just looking at the book design, how it looks on the inside. So we've just had the first draft of that. But I'm very much a sort of person, I'm not like deadline. I'm like, it will come out when it comes out.
Absolutely.
It's already out there. It's just, it will come out when it comes out. Some people are like, don't release it then, don't release it then. It's like, I'm just going to throw away the rule book and just do what feels natural.
And I think that's the best way to do it. I will have to, you know, invite you back once the book comes out.
Would love to come back.
That's what we have to do. Okay, guys, that was amazing. I really loved the conversation. Where can people find you if they want to explore more? What are the places they can get in touch with you, get more information, get some resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you come and find me on LinkedIn, Laura Ash and Barry Ash, come and find us on LinkedIn. We have our website, rocksolidhealth.co.uk. We are also on Instagram as rocksoliduk. And also you can just send us an email, laura@rocksolidhealth.co.uk. Don't send it to Barry because he won't look at it.
Of course, as usual, guys, all of the links for Barry and for Laura are going to be in the description of this episode on YouTube, as well as the description of the episode on any of your favorite podcast platforms where you have your podcasts. So I hope you loved this conversation as much as I did, guys. Thank you so much for joining us yet again. Remember to give it a thumbs up and give it some love. And if you feel so inclined, to leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform. We don't want you to miss any other episodes. So press that little bell notification when the next episode comes out. But we're with you every single week. It's either me or Ian. So next week, you're probably going to see my wonderful co-host with yet another guest. And today, Laura and Barry, you've been wonderful. It's been so informative. I'm looking forward to your book, and definitely we need to arrange another meeting because this was great. I'm sure it will help a lot of people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm going to see you in the next one.